Hello, everyone. It's Whitney, and I want to welcome you to Ladies Takeover Empowerment Podcast, where we're all about helping you to succeed and become the very best version of yourself. And we have been enjoying ourselves on season 6 live relationship edition. And on tonight, we have the dynamic duo Dion and Derek Green. I'm so excited to have some great friends of mine on tonight. So everyone join in with me as we have this conversation about love and commitment with my friends. Hi guys, how are
Hey,
you?
how are you? Thank you for
I'm
having us.
doing fantastic. Thank you for taking time out. I know you guys are super busy. We had an amazing time. I was just with you guys down in Florida not too long ago. So I know that you guys have some great things in store that you are planning and doing. And I know who you are, but please share with our listeners, all of those who are watching, about your relationship, how long you've been married, whatever it is that you'd like for the world to know about you guys.
Go ahead, babe. Share.
Okay, I'm Dion Green, and right now we currently reside in Newark, Delaware.
All
We
right.
have 6 amazing kids.
Wow.
One just had a birthday, Carver, and he is the oldest, all the way down to we have 2 that are the exact same age for several months.
Okay.
So we are a blended family, and it's just great. I'm married to this exceptional man here, Derek Green. We've been married. It will be 6 years, April the 1st.
Nice.
Yes, yes,
Beautiful.
yes.
Beautiful. What you want to add, Derek?
Well, I'm married to this wonderful woman sitting next to me. She actually is my heartbeat. She's the reason
Oh,
why I do what I do. She's my second chance on
Oh,
honoring God,
oh.
and she's the reason why I am who I am today.
That's beautiful. That is so special, so beautiful. Well, let's dig into
Sure.
some juicy stuff. We're here for you guys to help those that are listening, something that you can add of value to people who are married and not married, that it can be something that can make a difference in their lives. So, the first thing, tell us how you guys met and how you guys got to where you are now.
go ahead, because you
Yeah.
have the whole book story.
I was going to
Well,
say, is there two different stories?
Well, go ahead.
well, I've known her since we've known each other since we were young.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
even teenage years, young teens. My home church that I grew up in New Jersey, Faith Temple New Hope, we used to travel to her father's church up in Pennsylvania, once a year. Old school, get on the bus, put all the instruments on the bus, bring the choir, bishop would preach, and fellowship, have a little dinner, cake, and get back on the bus and drive home. So I've
Mm-hmm.
known her for all of my life. Uh, was smitten with her when I saw her in those days, but nothing ever really came of it. Wasn't thinking that much into it. But as we got older, we went to one of the conventions, and 2 of my very close friends, Menard Foster and Joey Gregory, we were just, like the Rat Pack. We ran together. You know how it is at the conventions. And
Mm-hmm.
um, they knew her very well as well because Menard is related to her on her dad's side.
Oh, wow.
And so we were down at the Cobalt in Detroit, Michigan. That's where they had
Yep.
the convention. And so we were in our room just chilling out, and the door, somebody knocked on the door. So I went to open the door, and it was this beautiful woman. She,
What, Dion?
that
You was
opened the
knocking on
door.
hotel doors at the convention.
My cousin was in that room.
So So I opened the door and I saw her, and I was looking in those eyes. If you ever notice her eyes, she was very gorgeous eyes, and I was looking in her eyes and that little gap in her teeth, and she was just looking all innocent. And she came in the room, we were laughing and talking, whatever. And I was really just like really smitten with her back then. Didn't think that ever in a million years that would come to anything. Went through life, ended up getting married, had 5 kids, went through a divorce. Was single for 9 years, One day I'm sitting in church here at New Destiny. Apostle says we got to run over to Kennett Square, which is where Father had started another work. Want to go and support him on his anniversary of this new endeavor. So myself, Ron Thomas, and Apostle, we got in the car. We drove over to service, sit in service, great service. Our brother preached. We're getting ready to leave. Apostle, okay, we got to go. We're getting ready to leave. And out of the peripheral of my left eye, I see somebody coming. Like I'm sitting on the front row and I see somebody coming towards me, and they embrace me and just leap on their tippy toes, and all this hair, she's got these locks now, but she had all this flowy hair just swinging all in my face, and she's on her tippy toes and she's crying and she's saying, "Oh, Derek, so good to see you. Thank you for coming to support my dad. So good to see you. Thank you so much." My wife, she's very emotional, and she's and I'm hugging her, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And she smelled. I call her a 7-layer pound cake because she uses 7 layers when she does her stuff. Seriously. And so I walked when I told her, give me your information. Are you on your Facebook? I said, yes, I'm on Facebook. Keep in touch. And I got back in the car, and Ron, he's a jokester. So, and I had made a vow. I said, I'd already said I'm not ever get married again. I ain't doing none of that. I'm goody. And he basically looked in the back and said, "What you gonna do now, Doc?" Oh. And I knew then when I saw her that I should have never made that vow.
Oh wow!
And I knew something was stirring in my heart, and I would have to face that. And that's how we met again. And then she stated to me, on Facebook, I'll let you tell that part.
So he's Chef Green as well.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And so on Facebook, we were friends. And so he was doing all this cooking and posting, like, this extravagant sauteed mushrooms and caramelized onions and drizzled over, this scrumptious steak and this, and I'm like, dang, what's going on over there? So I get in his DMs and say, hey, looks like you can do something. Maybe you should cook for me sometime. And he was like, sure, whenever you want. And so I said, okay, this weekend. He said, okay, come on. And
just like that.
So just like that. And, it's been something ever since. Like,
the rest is history.
And here we are, married.
So how long did it take for y'all to get together then? Because he said as soon as he talked to you, he already knew.
So it was. He said, "Call me," and I said, "Yeah," but I wasn't.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I also went through a divorce, and I was like him. I'm good. I've been single for, at that time, it was like 12 years. Wow. And I was like, I don't. Okay,
yeah.
Dating people, and then, it's like, no, yeah. I'm good. Mm-hmm. So, but then the Facebook, and it had to be over at least a year or so. I didn't even, and so, but from the time I went to see him, we have been together ever since. And,
You're the second person that I've talked to, or second couple that I've talked to that said that they were together ever since they decided to talk. So I'm going to ask you an extra question that's in here that I hope is not too intrusive. But I do know that you guys said that your process was a little bit different, that it wasn't like a big, huge announcement, and it wasn't a lot of people that were a part of this, and then next thing you know, everybody knew, right? So I guess my question to you is what did you do different this second time around? Like, what was your intentions, and what did you guys promise each other that you were going to do differently that you didn't do the first time?
For me, I wasn't going to get married unless I knew God was telling me to. The first time I did it because I was 30, alone, single mom, all the wrong reasons. He was good looking, but other than that, it was absolutely, this time I knew I needed someone that just didn't say, in the church, how they lived was
Right.
what God had in place for their life. And
Yeah.
I could see God moving in his life, using him. I wanted to be with that type of man. I wanted to be with someone that would pray with me. I never dated someone that when we talked, before we hung up, he always said, "Let's pray." I never
Isn't that
dated anyone
beautiful?
like that. Even people
That's
that's quote
beautiful.
unquote unsaved.
Yeah.
No,
Mm-hmm.
let's pray. I knew I wanted things to be different the second time around. And I had also told my husband, I'm not getting a divorce. Now, I can't say since we've been married, I didn't want one.
Mm-hmm.
However, I told him, when and if we get married, there is no divorcing.
Yeah.
This is not get married, divorce, get married, divorce.
Right.
I didn't want that for my life. So
Yeah.
pretty much when we were dating, I told him, I'm not just dating you to dating you. If you're just
That's
dating me
smart.
to date me, then I'm good. Like he says, I'm goody. Bye. But if you're dating me and you want a wife, then I'm going to stay. But if you're not, then I'm good. I don't want the game plan, right?
Yeah.
So I think we came to that decision at some point, okay, we're just going to date and that's going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
And because we wanted it to be different this time around, and not saying it wasn't good for him the first time, and he can speak on his, but for me, it wasn't.
Gotcha.
And I didn't want that the second time around.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Understood. Derek, you?
Well, for me, it really was, since I made that vow that I should not have made, and I would not tell anybody to do that because I made that out of pain
Yeah.
and resentment. But once my head was on straight and my heart was healed, I wanted to marry somebody who had the capacity to walk with me in my purpose,
Mm,
and
that's
everybody
good.
can't do that.
That's
And I
good.
was and I watched how she handled whatever I gave her.
Mm,
I didn't, you got the looks, you got all that together. I know you good. You all that's good. But the biggest thing to me was, how are you going to handle what God has put
yep.
in my hands? Because I will, and I told her this, I will never walk away from him.
Mm-hmm.
I choose him over you.
I know that's right.
And I said it to her. I said, I had him before I had you.
Mm-hmm.
And when in my lowest moment, he's all I ever had.
Oh, yeah, for
So
sure.
what he gave to me before this foundation of the world. And I knew that I couldn't just entrust that to anybody just to be walking with me. And then in a moment, just be like, whatever with that. I could not live through that.
Yeah.
So I knew that she could handle that. And the way that I knew that was not because of what she told me, is because I talked
Mm-hmm.
to God about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I told God, if she's not it, break my heart now. Just
Wow.
move, just take her out away from me, just because I don't want to go down the path of going through the process of what I've gone through before and something different. I know you gave me a purpose that's huge in the earth, and whoever's with me has to have the capacity to walk alongside of me. And once God gave me the green light, I also want to stress to the listeners, I went to my pastor
Come
and
on.
and
That's
and and,
important.
and went to them both and said, listen, this is who I'm dating. I want you to know who I'm dating. I want you to know who I'm talking to. And if you see anything on my side or their side that's wrong or that I shouldn't be doing, stop me now. I give you absolute permission. I submit to your will. If you look me in the face and say, I love her, but she ain't it, doc, then I will obey whatever you tell me, because
Wow.
I believe that I know that you're my leaders and you watch for my soul. And I know you wouldn't play with me with that. And I submitted that. And they both agreed after talking to me, talking to her, that no, she's the one for you.
Oh my
And they
gosh.
solidified that. And so I was able to do that. So we didn't wait long. Once we had that conversation, sat down, when do you want to do it? We did it on that Saturday on April, it was April Fool's Day. Incidentally, it was April 1st. We did it in the office. my best friend Ron, he was my best man. Her cousin was there, and her dad was there. And Apostle married us in his office. Sunday, that was Saturday. Sunday morning, I was sitting on the organ playing with Monty, and he called me up to the front and said, "Come here, Pastor Green," and he made his big announcement, and the whole church, you could hear rat looking nice. Everybody's looking like, "What did you just say?"
You hurt a whole lot of people's feelings.
But it was what it was, and called her up, and that was it. That was history.
You said something that's so important, that you went to your pastors and you entrusted your pastors with your decision because they watch for your soul. Yeah. And some people that are watching are going to say, well, that's old school. But I think that is so important because people will go to their pastors. I've experienced, they've come to my husband and I and say, hey, I'm talking to this person, or I want you to meet who it is that I'm thinking about marrying. Yeah. And then when you give them the advice, they don't listen. They don't. And then once they get married, then they want to come back in your office and have all of this counseling, talk to you about how upset they are, how this is terrible, their life is upside down. And it's like, well, why would you listen to me now when you didn't listen to me the first time around? Exactly. It makes no sense. Exactly. And I think that it is admirable of you to even take that step to listen, and then we're willing to, whatever they said, listen to what they said.
Well, accountability is huge, and me, I pastored my own church for 12 years. Okay. I'm one of the associate pastors, the and overseer in the fellowship, and I do a lot of counseling of all sorts. I cannot preach that and not do it.
Come on. Say that.
That would be speaking with bitter water and sweet waters out the same time.
Right.
So I had to be submissive to what that was. And even when times got rough and challenging, we had to go sit down in the office. We had to do a Zoom like this with us looking at each other with fire coming out of our nose on the Zoom with Apostle counseling. And I'm serious, all that. Mm-hmm. But you can't speak that to people if you're not doing it.
You're right.
And right. It's like the scripture says when Aaron was anointed, the beard, the anointing, the apothecary went from the head to the beard to the skirt. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That means that every time, if you took a sample at the lower part of the garment, that what you got on the head, you also got at the skirt. It was never diluted or polluted. So when you get, what I'm saying is that when people get us, you're getting the authentication, the authentic, the real deal. I have got it from my head. I'm submitted to my head. So when I ask you to submit, I'm not asking you to do something that I wouldn't do.
That you wouldn't do. Absolutely. 100%. Which takes me to my next point, which is so important about communication. How important is communication in your relationship? Because you said that you met, then it wasn't even a year maybe, and when you knew, so it seems like you guys are able to communicate effectively, make decisions, be on the same page. So how important is communication in your relationship, and what do you do? What does that look like in your marriage for communicating?
What does it look like now versus what it was?
Hey,
well, here's the truth. I'm a communicator by vocation. That's what I do for a living. I communicate. So I can tell you the same story 30 different ways, come at a different moment. Okay. Right?
The preacher.
That's me.
Yeah.
That scenario or that practice is good for the pulpit, but it's not palatable at home.
That is so true. You have just said a truth. Oh my gosh. I need to write that down. That is it. That's it right there. It's the preacher in you that can say something 20 different ways, but you'll say that you just said it, and you didn't really just say what you just said. It's different. That's it.
Yeah, it's true. And if those that are in this capacity of pastors and leaders, we have a tendency of, we don't always.
I'm like, that's it.
We don't normally know how to turn that off. It's okay.
You just blessed my heart.
Because we don't always we don't know how to turn that off, when you come home. And so if I'm having a discussion and her with my wife in the early days, we were talking about whatever, and then I'm like, she's not getting it, and so I come back another way. Well, let me do this, and I just spent 2 hours sermonizing something that she asked me,
Yeah.
and that honestly, it made me feel good because I'm striving to get her to understand, but it was driving her through the roof. So much to the point where she, in one of our conversations, she said to me, she says, and it was heated. It was like gasoline. She said, I need you to give me a couple of days. And I'm like, a couple of days? It don't take a couple of days to get this out. We can talk about this. We get to the bottom of it. We move on to the next thing. I don't do a couple of days. That's time, because I'm used to getting results. I don't want to wait 2 or 3 days. But I also have to remember that she's not me.
Yeah.
She doesn't process like me. So she said, I don't process like you. You do stuff like this and all that, but it takes me a couple of days to get my thoughts together. And then she said, because I don't want to say the wrong thing to you and then have to come back and unearth what I said and apologize or say something off the charts to you. So I need a couple of days to get myself together, think about what you said, and I will revisit this in a couple of days. Good. As soon as I did that and accepted that, our communication took off to the hills because I understood that this is not that.
That's really good.
So now we talk.
Really good.
Mm-hmm. And also, when we had some issues and we had a Zoom with Apostle, one thing that he shared with my husband at the time was that he would come to me with a lot of, God is telling me this and God is saying this. And Apostle let him know that's God talking to you. That's not God talking to her. God is talking to you. So stop putting God's stuff on her that God ain't never told you to do. And so that was something to me that also helped us because I didn't want Pastor Green.
Yeah.
I wanted Derek.
Yeah.
I wanted the Derek I was dating that we would talk about stuff. And not one time, I'm not saying not one time you didn't say, and God told me, but it wasn't like, and I was praying and God told me that, and I was like, and? Like, my thing was, and? What's talking to me? And so when Apostle said that, I think also that helped him to be like, And that's why I said, I don't want the preacher Derek. Yeah. And so it helped us in a lot of areas where we could communicate effectively.
Gotcha.
And be able to say what we needed to say and accept what each other said and also accept how each other processes what is being said. Yeah. One thing I really loved that a prior couple that you had on, Apostle Logan and her husband, Lorraine, what they did was at the end of the month, they did a check, end of month check. And I thought, wow, how phenomenal if we could get people to understand that that's something that is necessary. Yes. Whether it's the end of the month, the end of the week, bi-weekly, to be able to sit down and say, so what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can I better myself as a wife for you? What can you do better as a husband for me? And we did our own, but not in that way. However, I will say it's not even been a year and our relationship has blossomed in less than a year.
Wow.
We struggled for like the first 5 years of our marriage. And so this, like I said, it's been less than a year. We have blossomed into who you see today.
Yeah.
And that is a testament. And I don't...
You about to cry.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. I did have a box of tissues, but you ain't here with me.
That is a testament that when you yield yourself to God.
Say that.
And you say, I don't want a divorce.
Say that.
Because I said better or worse. Those were words that I repeated. And I have to love him in spite of how I feel.
Yeah.
Our marriage I was healed first because I need to be healed. But then our marriage just blossomed into what people see today. And if you don't understand anything else about us or who God is to us, we put him first in everything that has to do with us. And my husband has been always been a man that says, I'm going to do what God tells me to do. So whatever you say or however you feel about it, if God tells me to do something, you can guarantee, bet your bottom dollar, I'm doing it. As long as it's not anything that's going to be harmful, which God would never tell him to do that. However, he just has always let me know, I'm going to do what God tells me to do. And so I admire that about my husband. And I'm just saying, I know our marriage is going to get better and better because the work that God is calling us to do,
Yes.
it has no other choice. But as my husband said, he had to take us through what he took us through so that we can help other
Other
couples.
people. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen it before my eyes. And I'll say this. I've been through similar situations because when I met my husband, he knew what he wanted to do. He was very specific about his position and where God wanted him to be. And I think that I was the one who was a little bit kind of like, yeah, that's good for you. I don't know if where I fit into the picture, but I was just kind of like, if that's what God wants you to do, good, so I'll be there. But as I went along with this journey, there was things that God was doing with me that I was like, I don't know if I signed up for this. Like, I don't know if this is all the things that I wanted, but by default, I was getting pulled into things. And then whenever, like you say, when you say, God said, it's like, well, hold on a second. I know that God speaks to me too. So somewhere in here, it would become, for a lack of a better word, offensive. Because yes, God may have told you that, but so are you trying to insinuate that he ain't tell me nothing either? Like, I would appreciate if God let me in on what's happening here. So like he just keeps letting you know all these big huge plans and I don't get the memo. Why is he not telling me? Like, God,
Right.
please let me know. So because I'm sure he wants us to get along. I'm sure he don't want us to argue. I'm sure that he wants us to agree. So if when you pray, let God know to let me know too, and then this would be great. Like we wouldn't be arguing. We would be good. Or just don't say God said, and then we'll be good on that one too. Like, you know what I mean? Like that works too. Especially when we both are believers. It'd be different if we didn't walk that same walk. But at some point, it's like when you throw that in there, it seems a little condescending at some point. Am I? You understand what I'm saying?
No, I
Absolutely.
understand what you mean. I think what it is that in those, when we hear, not that you all don't hear God, but we hear God differently. The mandate is always on us.
It is.
And so sometimes hearing a holy God say something to us that he puts on us that we don't have the option to back out, we know we have to come and tell you.
Yes.
And that is not always the easiest thing, to come tell you that we just came off the mountain talking to God. He spoke to us about our family and he's saying uproot, or he's saying do this.
Right.
When we have to bring something that's spiritual to a carnal or natural situation, because we're human, we get a little blowback. So
Yeah.
when we say that God says, it is to imply this ain't just coming off my chest, because
Right.
then that will put us at kind of odds. This is something that the Lord is saying, and our hopes, I'm giving y'all a secret, ladies, our hopes is that you would receive what we're saying that God said, and then go to God and say, God, my husband just said to me that you were speaking to him about X, Y, and Z. And I don't doubt that you are, but make it plain to me also.
Yes.
Because we need that encouragement, honestly, to be able to walk with you, because you all have a whole bunch of questions. Well, what's he going to do on the third? And
Yep.
what's he going to do that? And did he tell you how he's going to pay that? And did he tell you? So what we really are asking you under the line is to talk to God also, to be a source and a resource for us, because we know we can't carry what he just told us by ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's real. You do. I think that sometimes it's man, it's really maturity. That's the only way that I can say it. It's maturity in your relationship that intertwines God. Because I think that when I know for me, I can't speak
Mhm.
for anyone else, but I know for me, when getting married and we do make vows before God, I got married so young. I got married when I was 22.
Mhm.
I don't think any part of me was thinking anything about how God would be in the middle of that, if
Gotcha.
that makes any sense.
Hmm.
All of the things and the plans that I was making had to do with my natural plans, but never what God had planned for the marriage. So to then take those thoughts and then be like, okay, what is God saying about this marriage? We do it spiritually. We
Yeah.
do it for our goals. We do it in our prayer life for our families or for people to get saved or healing and other things. But to say, God, for my marriage, what specifically do you want me to do to stop in every aspect of our life? It's a maturity that you have to get to in your life to stop, to humble yourself, to learn to be quiet, to learn that you're not always right. Like these are huge things that had to happen for me to get to that place to where if my husband said it, that I just said okay. And it was hard because I have a big mouth. I just talk.
Well, both of us are very adamant and
Mhm.
animated in our
Mhm.
presentations. I never quit on anything.
Mm.
I'm not a quitter, so I will go toe to
Mhm.
toe with you. And she's that's why I married her, because she got a little Brooklyn under. She got a little spice, and I like that. One of the things that God told me, and I think this is really paramount for everybody to listen to, is that number one, He told me to love her. When I said, "Okay, Lord, this is her. This is who you want to marry,"
Say
what He
that.
told me, He said, "Love her unconditionally."
Say that.
That He didn't ask me, say, I would like you to." He commanded me,
Yes.
and He showed me everything from the time she was born up into her future, what was in her.
Wow.
If I have a huge bowl of fruit that's right here. I wish I could show it to you on camera. It has all kind of different fruits and vegetables in it. I saw all the things, fruits that were in her, all the things that ever happened to her. All that He took my eyes. I got to see,
Wow.
and Lord, you. But I saw everything, and He said,
Wow.
I need you to love her unconditionally because I'm sending her and trusting, putting her in your hands.
Wow.
So you don't get to respond as her husband like that.
Mm.
Like Samuel was taken and given to the temple,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
she was given to me to take care of and to oversee and to watch and to pray her through even stuff and unearth stuff that she didn't even know that was in her, good or bad.
That's beautiful.
So what I had to do was I had to mature instantly in this area because I had to love on command and love on demand.
Mm.
So
Mm.
now when there was an issue, I had to go straight to God, not to her. She could just say whatever. She'll tell you right now. At one point, I was like, all right. And I literally would walk out. We good? Okay. And I walk out. I'll go upstairs in my room,
Wow.
close the door, and I talk to God. And I'll come back. So this is what the
Wow.
Lord just told me. This is what da 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 da. This is whatever. That's my responsibility. So
Wow.
yes, she's my wife. She's my girl. She's my boo. She's my sweetie. All that. But I have a responsibility to assist her to get to her destiny.
That's amazing. That is so amazing. So that takes me to this question then. And I'll let Dion answer
Yep.
first and then you can answer, overseer. How has your spouse made you a better person?
Oh, wow. Um, First, I've grown. Let's talk about the natural side first. I think he,
Set it up, babe. Set it up.
he like keeps me at an even keel.
Mm,
I can be a little rambunctious. I
okay.
have Birch and Reeves in me. My Birch is my mom's side, and the Reeves is my dad's side. And the Birches can be a little, we have a little something, right? And so, because he is commanded to love me unconditionally, he can handle that in me. And so, times when I want to flare up and he doesn't flare up or he doesn't, I kind of simmer down. On the spiritual side, he always tells me, babe, if you could just see what is in you that I see. So he's helped me really to mature. And this is someone, like yourself, PK. Dad was a pastor. Grew up in church all our lives. Born baby pew babies. I still am not at 100% capacity to me of my spiritual walk. I'm growing all the time, and so my husband helps me to grow spiritually. He challenges me. He'll tell me stuff like, when I'm preaching, I'm just going to throw you the mic and let you finish. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. What? I'm like, oh, I gotta be ready. So he challenges me in areas. I don't know. He makes me a better me. I'm like the peanut butter. He's the strawberry preserves.
Talk about it.
So I'm grateful. I'm grateful because God gave me not just what I wanted, but what I needed for my life, so that I wouldn't die spiritually.
Wow.
So I wouldn't stay in that state of, I've been raised in church all my life,
Right.
but still don't know nothing.
Right.
Still not really living up to, I'm not living where God really wants me to be.
Yeah.
Yes, I know of God, but I know God now. Like I know him. Just from going through different issues, I know God. And not even sometimes an issue. I just know God now for myself. And my husband has helped bring that out. And I'm just loving that. I'm loving that we are walking in unity instead of friction, instead of, going somewhere and I can't stand you really, but we have to go. So, that kind of, but now doing it with love and just listening and
that's great. And smiling, you ain't pulling one of those Melania Trumps where he tried to put his hand out and you fan your hand.
I used to. Like, what? Like,
get off of me.
Yeah, like, what are we doing? What you were doing that yesterday? Not right? So, thank God for growth. Thank God. Like you said, thank God for maturity. Like,
yes, Lord.
Thank you, Lord, for maturity. We're a little older than you, and I call him Bishop Memorex, but we're a little older than you all. But it doesn't matter.
No.
We've all been through similar situations and have watched God bring us through those together.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely better because of him.
That's awesome. I think you said something which is funny. I don't know if it's funny or not. It's probably bad on my part, but he'll tell you that my husband doesn't really cry. Except for when like he's in the presence of the Lord and he feels God. Like I've never really seen him. So I think that I take advantage of that. So I probably have said some really mean and just I push it to the limit because I know, that he's not going to hit me. He's not going to do anything. So my mouth was just lethal, just taking advantage of it because it was like I want to like get a rise out of him, like do something. So you were saying that you would calm down if he didn't respond, but I was the opposite. I'm gonna keep saying something until you respond because you're not doing anything. So walking away I don't like the walking away. I would like probably follow you until you say something. Because like, why aren't you saying anything? Like, you know, I'm talking and you're not saying anything. So yeah, I was terrible.
Oh no, so was I. Oh, don't get it wrong. I was as well, but because of just this past July that the healing has happened, I don't have to kind of like stir up and rise. Like it's like we are truly walking in unity. I can't even explain it. If someone was
No,
to say,
God is
"Well, what
good.
happened?" Well, what happened? I can't even say. He said this or no.
It's God.
God did it. Like he
Hmm.
totally took my heart. I almost felt like he took my heart that week and just kind of mended it and like put it together and put it back in my chest to say, okay,
Yeah.
like here it is. Like, what are you
Hmm.
doing? And ever
Hmm.
since that weekend, I mean, my husband can even say, like, I know I'm a different person. I
Yeah.
know, I just know I am. I know that what happened at Word of Grace would not have been able to happen if we
Hmm.
weren't walking in unity.
Yeah.
And
God is going to heal, He's going to deliver, but the way He does it.
And you
Um,
know what, Dion? That's important for you to say. And I want to acknowledge, and I want everyone that's listening, hoping that they can hear what it is that you're saying and reading between the lines, because sometimes we don't want to own our stuff. And when we have a rift in relationships, we want to find a way to put it off on the other person. And we'll always say what was wrong with the other person, or I did this because you did so and so. But the reality is the only person that you can control is yourself. The only
mhm,
person that you can fix is yourself. And so if I focus on getting me better, then whatever you are doing that's wrong, maybe it won't bother me anymore if I work on me. And
mhm,
somehow I hear you keep talking about what you did rather than how he is. And that's a testament to how amazing God is in your life, because you're just like, it was I did this. God fixed me. He fixed my heart. You never once said that your husband did anything. He may have fixed him, or he may still be the same person, but in your opinion it was you, and that's amazing.
mhm.
I applaud
Absolutely
her.
amazing.
And I applaud her, and I constantly thank God because and you were there during that service when the Lord
Mm-hmm.
delivered her, because I saw what God wanted to do,
Mm.
but I couldn't fix it. I
Mm.
understood it was out of my hands, but I had to do my part, which was
Yep.
love her unconditionally, so that when the day of deliverance came for her, she would feel free to
Yep.
be delivered. And he did not give me any insight when it was going to happen, that it was going to happen that time. It was none of my business. He just did it. And what's really key is when your spouse gets delivered from anything, it's very important. Even when I pray for people and cast devils out of them and all that, and whatever the case may be, I always tell the spouses that are with them, don't ever bring up what
Mm.
they've been delivered from.
Mm.
Don't take them back to what they've been
Right.
delivered from. They're delivered.
Right.
Thank God for deliverance. And leave it at that. I tell everybody, I'm a biggest cheerleader. I have a new wife that came home ever since that day. And what I really wanted her to know was the stuff that you see happening now was always there.
Yep.
All that stuff was there, and all these people are waiting for this.
Wow.
And I wanted her to know. I said, I'm not against you. I'm not fighting against. I'm for you. But what I had to understand also was, as that's why God showed me and gave me that mandate. The pain of her past caused her so much discomfort that it was not
Yeah.
easy for her to release that. So
Yeah.
I had to let her know I'm not going nowhere. I'm staying. And when you wake up in the morning, as mad as you might be, I'm still going to be sitting right next to you. I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to be here no matter what. Good, bad, or different, I'm going to be right here.
That's good. That's
So,
really good. I
yeah.
appreciate y'all. That's
Oh,
amazing. That's
we
amazing.
appreciate you.
Absolutely fantastic. I'm getting, the time is getting away from me because I'm just enjoying you guys so much. So I want to ask another question, and you may have kind of already answered it, but I'll still ask it again, because it's probably changed. So throughout your marriage, how have you guys handled conflict? So I know you said that you go to God and like you'll leave out the room, and Dion, you said that like you'll say like, give me a few days and I'll get back to you. Has it always been that way? How have you guys handled conflict throughout your relationship?
Good.
No, you go.
In the early
I
days,
want to say.
in the early days, it wasn't like that. We didn't have communication like that.
Okay.
We were experimenting. As time grew, and I knew that, like I said, that she said to me, I need a couple of days ago, just depending on the issue. You have a little difficulty about something, you don't need 3 days for that, and I don't need to talk to God about that. It's just, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That's the thing. I don't have to go to
Right,
God.
right,
The
right.
major issues that are destiny issues that are changing the essence of our, like, if you come to my house right now, everybody comes to my house and says, I never want to leave. There's so much peace here. Well, it's because we're not in here by ourselves. And that peace that we have in the house is amazing. So when we're at odds with each other, that affects the environment. So we found a way to communicate with just talking. Babe, when this happened the other day, this really bothered me when this happened, blah, blah, blah. We talk about it. And that took, we weren't always there,
Right,
but it's not worth messing up to hold on to something.
right.
We just get it. Oh, I didn't mean that, babe. I shouldn't have said it like that. You know what? We had a situation not too long ago. Something happened, and she came to me. She said, "Babe, you know what? You're absolutely right. I could have did that differently." Okay, no problem.
That's
Is
great.
that be done with it?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the truth: you really can't hold anybody hostage when God hasn't held you hostage for real, for
Come
real. And
on.
there's
That's
stuff
it.
that He could have held us real hostage
A
in
hundred
front of the whole
percent.
world, and He didn't. So
100%. 100%. Every time I think about it, 100%.
you know what I mean? That's why He says this. He says, "Don't let the sun go down on your wrath." So He doesn't mind you
Yeah.
being angry, being upset, but don't sin. So when the
Yeah.
sun goes down, you're supposed to be done with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now that doesn't mean that there's some situation you might have to talk through a couple of days later because it's a big issue. But your feelings, you can't keep those to the next 2 or 3 days. You can't do that.
Yeah.
No.
And I was talking to someone the other day. I was like, sometimes we feel valid in our opinions and our emotions and our feelings, but what is the real issue? When you get down to it, what is it that is bothering you? And they were like, oh, well, they didn't do what I asked them to do when I asked them to do it, so I'll just do it myself type of thing. And I was like, you have to ask yourself or take an introspective look, because what women tend to do a lot of times is really just manipulation. And we do it because we aren't getting our husbands to respond when we want them to respond. They didn't do something that we wanted them to do. So then we get upset and we get angry and we make bigger issues out of things that really aren't that big of an issue. And we just want to use our feminine wiles to control our other half. If you think about it, Dion,
I was a little different
really.
because I was super independent,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't need you. I don't need you.
Mm.
But I don't need you. I've been doing this all my life. So my mom died when I was 17.
Okay.
So basically, it was me. And then I was a single parent. And even though I was married before, he didn't help me do nothing.
Mm.
So for me, it was more of a super independence. And my husband was
Mm.
like, well, why don't you? And I was like, why don't I what? What do I need? Why I gotta tell you or ask you or do what? I've been doing this all my life. Inward, And he would be like what, so I was more like the independent one of
You are so funny.
like I don't
He's telling
need
you the
you.
truth.
Like I don't need you, right? I wanted you to be you to be with you, but I didn't need you. Now I didn't
Yeah.
need you. And so even in saying that, I was wrong
Right.
because I did need him.
Come
I
on.
do need him.
Yeah.
But because of my independence and because of my will being, I don't need you. Like, what I need you for? Like, I want to be with you. So
Right.
don't act like I don't need you. I want you.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
we say that as women, but we
Yeah, we
say
do.
it and it's wrong. Not only
Mm-hmm.
do we want our spouses, we need our spouses.
Yes. Yes.
And we need our spouses to be uh, the spouses that God has called them to be in our lives, the head,
Mm-hmm.
watch
Yes.
over us, pray over us, all of that, cover us. And
Yes.
so even in me saying those things, I was that girl. I don't need you. And I would say it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need you. And so that would add to the, well, God said, and I was like, here we go.
I can hear you saying that too.
Mhm.
So I was a little different because
Mm-hmm.
of my independence. I just was a little
Gotcha.
different where I don't think I've said that since. Like I have not said that to where I've told him I don't need you.
That's
See, one
good.
of the things that the scripture says something on this. Why I'm paraphrasing. It says, if a man doesn't please take care of his wife, and the Lord won't hear him pray.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
I don't treat her right, my ceiling is metal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you
Mm-hmm.
are, Bishop, Pope, Cardinal,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When God commands you to do something, He gives you a grace to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He commanded me to love her unconditionally, but do you know what the other
Mm-hmm.
side of that is? Is there's a responsibility on her side to respond.
Mm. Gotcha.
That moves me out the way.
Yeah.
So now, if she's not responding according to what the Lord has told me to do, and when I talk to God about it, I said, Lord, I went to her the way you told me to talk to her. You see me. I spoke to her with the tone that I was supposed to. I'm not hiding
Mm-hmm.
anything. My hands are clean before you. Then God moves me out the way, and then He goes
Yeah.
straight to her and deals with her.
Yeah.
Knowing that He will deal with her releases me from the stress of all that other stuff.
That's good.
Because He'll
That's
talk.
real good.
He will
Yeah.
talk. He'll talk to, and he'll talk to anybody who open themselves up and say, "Okay, God, if you really want what you say you want,
Yeah.
you'll listen."
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that. Well, is there a time that you've made a mistake in your relationship and you wish you could go back and do it differently? How would you handle it? What would you do differently if you had that opportunity?
Mm.
That's a good question. Say that one more time.
Yeah, ask that one more again.
If you had made a mistake in your
Mm-hmm.
relationship while you've been married, how would you go back and do it differently?
You want to go?
Mm-mm.
You want to go? Um, I think for me, I don't think I know for me, my mistake would have been and was allowing my anger and my frustration to mount to the point where I would speak or say something that was not beneficial. Now, when I say that, no, I ain't never cussed her out. I ain't never called her out her
Yeah.
name. But
Mhm.
to allow her to get that close to hit that part of me that took me over the top, that made me,
Mhm.
that she didn't make me, but I put myself in a position to respond. I
Mhm.
could have responded differently. I could have
Mhm.
responded better. And I think,
Mhm.
and a few years ago, there were times that if I could do that over again, I would not have done that the same way,
Gotcha.
because then we
Gotcha.
would have arrived at this destination sooner.
Hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha. That's good. What is it about you, Dion?
Mm. Well, I believe I would say the same thing that God told my husband to. love him unconditionally. Um, I had conditions on loving him.
Wow.
I'm going to love you if, and I
Wow.
might not have said it, but that was my actions. I'm
Wow.
going to love you if you do what I think you should be doing. I'm going to love you if you do, right? And so that's not how I'm to love him. My love for him should be unconditional. I'm going to love you even if you can't do X, Y, and Z, because we are to be one. And so that all goes back to that, being unified. And if I would have stayed unified with him from the beginning, we would, who knows where we would be. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to go there. God still has a plan for us. And
Absolutely.
I'm here for the long haul, for the plan. I want to help other couples heal and maybe get over some of the stuff that we've been through. And even though we've been married only for 6 years coming up, doesn't mean that doesn't mean we don't have something to share.
You're
Um,
absolutely right.
and hope that it would bless other couples. So yeah, I just would tell myself to love him unconditionally, like God commanded him to love me. And that would have taken away some of the conditions I put on the love that I was going to give him.
That's great. That's beautiful. Well, thank you both so much. I have truly enjoyed this. This has been absolutely phenomenal. I know that everyone who is watching has gotten so much from just listening to you guys, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We would love to,
And
and thank you.
and we'll do it in person. Maybe I'll come on your podcast.
Come on.
Well,
Well, his podcast.
His podcast. Yes.
sure.
Yes. I feel
Absolutely.
that in my spirit. I feel that coming.
Yeah, that's a good thing. We could do that. We could do
Yes,
that.
I would love that. I would love that.
Yes.
But thank you guys again.
Thank
And
you.
you guys have a wonderful evening. Love you so much.
Love you. Love you too.
Love you. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe. Catch up on previous episodes on any of your favorite podcast outlets.